We've been on this bus 100 times before, waiting on the corner to step through its door. Stumbling through downtown traffic, the driver's good, but he's not magic. Roll on through the open lane, I said I'd never ride again. There's trains and cars and feet instead, or a downtown apartment for the price of a head. But here we are upon its seats once more, waiting for the bus to open its door. I saw a woman in the turn lane freaking out, pounding her wheel and making a pout. She couldn't turn into the lot where her car could have a spot. Articulated back end blocked her move, held up traffic, stopped the groove. Someone's horn is blowing now. I can't hear it, but I'm sure she growled. Here I sit watching, trying not to visibly chuckle. I think she just gave me one finger, two knuckles. As I sit on the bus once more, waiting, watching for an open door.
Yay.
This is about my favorite bar downtown in the world. People walking by can sense this is a place of magic as they stroll through with heads on swivel, quickly en route to real destinations they've read about in pamphlet guides or seen on travel blogs, afraid to veer off course into a possibly seedy cave, unknowingly avoiding warmth and true hospitality. Owner Joe pouring homemade wine from darkened jugs, nearly too large to hold. Market regulars shout greetings while soft jazz plays. Dust settling further on old world memorabilia. Oh, that's not the mint. I'm gonna shake off my I didn't know I was going first before, 2 minutes before we started. So.
Hello. What's up, Rachel?
Hello. Oh, good. The old men from the Muppets are here. One person named Cole. Yeah, take your spot up in the balcony there. All right, where was I? Ah, yes. Market regulars shout greetings while soft jazz flows. Dust settling further on old world memorabilia. A spot opens on well-worn couches, eyes joyfully flitting from treasure to treasure. The meat is sweet, the whiskey neat. Another day gallops by the white horse. Soon finding themselves the victims and witnesses to heinous, mutilating murders. The filmmakers did about as good a job at concealing who the murderer is as they did keeping equipment off camera, with many obvious clues, the dead giveaway being an apartment full of stuffed animals. No tarot reading necessary to figure this one out. Yet our hard-headed, overeager assistant DA character is as useless as the opening sex-less scene. Multiple scenes are stolen by golden blonde hair and poorly blended boils. Stick around for the climax, a one-man act of a fever dream that'll confirm any doubts you had if the producer and director are really as awful a writer as the rest of the movie displays. Because all three of those are the same people, producer, director, and writer. The lack of imagination and motive is truly the scariest part of this hallucinogenic romp. Of an existence. Yet, when you come out to the other side, it's so bright that your mind craves going back in, wanting to be a subterranean cave dweller, subsisting off drips of water and salt rocks, unable to understand how everyone else lives above ground. The grass is just too green, the sky too brilliant. Well, I guess while we're in that vein, let me switch to the old book here. I came here to stare death right in the face. As soon as the clean bill of health came, I booked my ticket, fulfilling the fantasy I had while laying in bed for months. Like a victory lap right in the Reaper's realm, the place everyone is trying so hard to escape death in. Everything's supersized to feel more alive. Push the button just a few more times to salvation. There isn't a single place to simply sit and rest, aside from a toilet. Even being out and about requires relentless forward movement. Resting means you've died. Oh, there's plenty of seats in this town, but they require the ultimate proof of life, money. Bar stools come complete with video gambling between these modern Nickelodeons are endless, repeating pay-ons to the other proof of life, shopping. Gaudy displays of blood coursing through veins. Plenty of flesh around, too, with endless repeating steakhouses, world-famous sushi, bodies to consume on every corner. Death abounds here, the place I've broken a months-long home binding, the place I've come to affirm my life. Arrived and stayed the weekend in a shared double room facing downtown. The weather was wet, relentless rain and mist. The background of brutalist and half-finished modern architecture deepening the vibe. Those early days were filled with uncertainty and seething, especially toward the two knucklehead roommates I was subjected to. The news reported record-breaking rain levels, a month's worth in one weekend. While inside, news slowly came, or hardly at all. Glimpses of the bay between dark towers promised progress, ferries and freighters going to and fro on steady tides. A sunbreak came and gave nurses hope. Doctors came and gave me hope. Then I was moved to my own room, facing southwest, toward the port and Beacon Hill. Classic late spring weather mood shifts patterned my own internal shifting. I settled into the idea I'd be here for a while. I started calling it the health hotel rather than hospital. The design of an almost but not quite usable patio, or at least plant stand, out my window confused. Why leave it weather-pocked and gray, not at least paint? But in the evening, a shock of rainbow poured from the sky at sunset, directly behind a historic building which has always captivated my imagination. Its burnt orange, Art Deco design, a beacon for many who look in its direction. I don't recall the weather much the following day. I believe it came and went in alternating grays and rays, true to the time of Seattle year. I settled further into being in this space, before being informed they were preparing my room up on the cancer floor. A couple hours later, I arrived in what a nurse aptly called the penthouse suite, a corner room with sweeping easterly views. I couldn't tell at the time, but Tahoma was waiting. As the first night here came on, Mark and I marveled at the shifting colors, the sunset spreading and shining across eastern Seattle.
Another badge that I more identify with, it's awarded to those who get injured in the line of duty, and it's called the Purple Heart. And this story here is about Purple Heart queers. Gold stars always seemed out of reach, even in the palm of the hand, even in the clench of catching thighs, even in those moments of frailty too real not to be close for someone low as I, shade blooming and bound to the earth. The distance is moments like years, stretched out taut, breath held, muscles clenched. Keep moving, don't look down. He's still below you sometimes, an incessant pressure you've learned to comfort, a question you can't answer without forcing words together like lead type. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love? Like a brother, like a child? Like a roller coaster you never asked for. Close your eyes, scream, try not to be sick. Everyone else is having fun. What's wrong with you? She's dabbing out her cigarette, eyes sharp across the rim of her phone. Where are we in her weekend schedule of Purple Hearts, clambering through the window to touch something without tarnish, only to feel the prick of her points? Pull the fresh marg from her lips and stain it with lipstick. Make a note to become what she can't have after this. As much as you are what he couldn't touch after this. Draw under ear, nothing a little elbow grease can't fix after this. Her lips curl. Gold points pierced purple. Swear never again, just after this. Gold stars hover in the skies now over wee purple hearts, which grow wild in these woods, but only flourish in the shade, which I will tell you are called wild bleeding hearts. I'm bleeding for you perennially, sentimental and hardy, long-lived through dormant winters, we who have retreated over and over underground, only to burst forth again and again. The light of distant stars no longer burns me, and the shade of your bangs, roots akimbo, purple badges clatter aside, and war stories need no retelling. A constellation of gold can't buy a valley of pale amethyst.
Do you want the mic up?
Yeah.
No, I like stooping. It's kind of dramatic, you know?
Is that-
and
is that-
also, like, my poetry is very gay. Why should I say I'm straight?
What?
Speaking of gay, this is about, like, some very gay and trans shit. Oh, yeah, that's nice.
It's a very good set.
Thank you. See, it's intentionally unintentional. He has recurring dreams of a broken down truck the size of a house. He drives it to school, he drives it to work, he drives it to the pawn shop, eyes shooting past junk jewelry and piled books, to the peace. A month ago it was a wheel gun, tonight a 10mm. Every night it's out of reach, broken, or more money than he has. He keeps medicine in his tool belt, weight biting into the flesh of his hips, burdening his shoulders. Something to keep him earthbound as he shoots point to point, beats pins, applies brutality to hard iron that can only groan in protest. He fears what he would be without 60 pounds on his belt and 60 in his bucket, without 20 foot of drop to one side and 200 to the other, without something to hold him down. He smiles when he throws hands, involuntary glee twinkling amongst the rage as stars in his vision, among a world purple and bruised. Hands shooting and feints and flurries remind him of the men he once wanted. The anger they confuse with lust must feel similar, only he can tell the difference between man and mannequin. He'd been both, somehow neither. He spent years shooting glares out of dresses, flexing his jaw at strange eyes trespassing his wide stride, shoulders forward, down, as though the flesh he loathes, the feminine phantom, peripheral in mirrors and storefronts, could break down inside, slough off, become a napkin stained with mascara black clumps among blood red swirls. He loves a man whose tongue is bright as pinions, whose laughter is icy bells, whose steps in juicy saunters, hands aflit, forever center stage, who smiles rakish, amused and superior to ghoulish eyes, trying to resurrect from him a girl he never bothered to kill. The evil eye trembles mid-air at his darling's cocked hip, shot down by the roll of his eyes. Last night the man's virginity clung to him, perfumed favor pinned to breast. His own body virginal no more, but chaste, in due reverence to this temple of postmodern curves, eyes like stained glass, and acoustic gleaming brass. He resolves to become the magic unseen, the bellows behind the organ. Each rhythmic pulse shooting chords through his angel's pipes. The music they make rings in his ears for days, louder than any word misspoke or odd glance. He dreams that night of the pawn shop, fire sale, everything must go. The 10mm in his hand, brand new, just in budget, is 15 men's lives and zero appeal. He places it back on the shelf, as ever so gently, like unfolding origami, his pawn shop becomes a bookstore. Small green shoots here and there in pots remind him how little one can learn of life from a gun. The apartment is empty, though she can't remember why. Tonight is her night. She finds the right shirt, smothering compression, affixes trucker cap just so, long hair tucked into a shape that doesn't tell. By the way, this poem is called Tattle and Tell. The hill is dark tonight, clambering with would-bees, has-beens, and can't-bees like her. There's a 3-story dance club on East Pine. She tries to avoid the casual glances, tries to avoid the doorwoman calling her sweetie, tries to avoid touching the boys packed in tight, catcalling each other, grinding, telling each other everything she wants to feel tonight. She's on the 3rd floor. There's a drink in her hand now, and a bachelorette party clinging to the wall beside her. She dances with a bridesmaid, clumsy from nerves, stammers that she's not used to being the guy, desperate to tell on herself, to hear some confirmation that she's arrived, that she's a destination for one of these tittering women or any of these gyrating boys. She's drunk enough to dance, and the women have dissipated, should she? But the crowd parts wide, and someone tall, dark, and wiry is pressed into her. Near enough to smell the tequila on his breath, far enough to direct his hands away from the illusion of a flat chest, of a jawline sharp enough to cut through the humorous glances, down to her hips, which are real enough to hold his attention. His touch is real enough to obliterate the stares she catches from the men beyond the walls of this club and the confines of this neighborhood, to tell her to stay a little longer, to tell her she belongs. There's a tongue exploring her own, and hands slinking under her skinny jeans and borrowed boxers. She leans into them, into the feeling of being held as equal. The man is feeling bold, hand dipping further down her back, to the junction of her thighs, to feel the secret answer to a question she hasn't learned to ask yet. She can't hide from this, and like a bear trap, he springs back, drunkenly knocks the hat away, long locks cascading like the laughter of the crowd, her tattletale shame. The truth never goes unpunished. The laughter is years in the wake now. Behind the horizon, with names new and old, pronouns swapped, hormones dropped, and the club on East Pine is dead and cold. He sips his liquor slow at Diesel, the woman inside him sheltered from the man beside him, who asks blunt and proud, "Are you trans or a man?" Who states drunk and loud, he's gay and allowed to touch him with errant swagger, eyes dull like rusty daggers cutting through his clothes, to try and suppose he's a boy to enfold, to badger and scold into being a whole motherfucker, he tells with a glare that knocks the old fool half out of his chair. "I'm whoever I'll be, and you're right to be scared." Alright, it's not as gay and trans. It's actually more about family and a little bit my work. You keep a dead man's vest in your closet. You tell folks it's the only high-vis you have that's flame retardant, but Dylan, Tiny Titan is what you say in your head. Everyone else calls him that fucking garden gnome. About 5 foot of man and 10 inches of beard. Bolt-up foreman. Stomping and raving, manic through 12 hours of chasing connectors, fixing deckings fuck-ups, bolting together super trusses that strain both crawler cranes when they come off the ground. All smiles and unveiled threats to the other crews. But you he stole from the decking and safety crew. You, not one harsh word or glance. 15 years, you're elder in iron. He can see that you're stuck in the same gear. There's something forgotten, heinous, and unaddressed in both of you. Much like the faults in the sickly megastructure you both sweat and bleed into every day. No matter, he says it, you do it. He never questions you again. Except for the little things. Sis, you want a pull of this? A bottle of Pendleton passes around the bolt-up shack. It'll help loosen you up. Just not too much, can't have you stumbling off a beam. And so the warmth fills your mouth as you swallow, and the fire in your belly roars out of you. A draconic, "Fuck you, Dad!" as the 16-pound beater in your hands drives the 5th pin of the 3rd connection you've worked today. Dylan yells out, "Tell that motherfucker!" Screams at the apprentice, "Get her a water!" And the ring of the beater sings that she's home. Which now in summer is a sweltering connex, nestled in the dried mud of the footing. You strip down to a sweat-soaked sports bra, glare at the deckers who used to eye-fuck you from across the row, prodding at a slumbering unseen memory. But bolt up rolls hard and deep. Loyalty is a motherfucker when it's two-way street. You put heat in the steel for these men, keep their secrets. For once in your life, their love for you isn't one of them. But as break wraps up, Dylan pulls you back as you stagger into your shirt. You brace yourself for something vile and familiar, but he closes the door. I see you, you know, is all that he says as he quickly...
With all the masks on, it's kind of like I'm naked. Picturing you guys naked. That's not political humor. I'm just kind of how it feels. So anyway, I wrote this zine. There's somewhere there if you don't want one, but it's I did a temp job. Can you hear me with this thing?
Do you need me to like try and move it up, dude?
I'm trying to. Yeah.
I mean, I can try and move it up. Like, let's see. Poet's worst enemies usually.
Yeah.
Will that stay? Does that feel like it's mic standard enough?
No, this is good. This is
fine.
good. Yeah.
Mic standard.
So, yeah, I worked a rodeo in Oregon, and I wrote this zine about it. So I'm just going to read from that. We all load into the van, a wildly diverse group of folks of the sort you'll see at any temp job, spanning across all ages, races, and backgrounds. All of us 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless, or homeless already. We get to St. Paul. When the Pendleton Roundup isn't happening, St. Paul has a population of 450. When there is a rodeo, the stadium fills up to 10,000 people. It's June 30th, and until the 4th of July, we have work and paychecks. Talk on the shuttle is of the one thing we all have in common, work. It's the first day with LaborWorks. My earlier zines, I used to spell work with an E, kind of like work, you know. But like, at this point, I feel like I'm trying to be more professional. It's my first day with LaborWorks, the staffing agency. Other folks on the bus know each other from other jobs. Degrading, insulting work they've done for shitty bosses. I've done this kind of thing before to pad out what's left of my savings from all the seasonal work I've done. At this point, it's all I know how to do. For me, lining things like this up is how I've gotten by. Never one for the 9 to 5. I cast caution to the wind, hoping the money will come from somewhere. I've been lucky lately. I don't know how everyone else here does it, where they live or what their bills are. The talk never gets that deep. It's 3 o'clock when the van pulls up to a carnival on the rodeo fairgrounds. Gaudily painted rides with grinning exotic animals are all around, along with the smell of elephant ears and corn dogs. They bring on the memories of my youth. Girls from the next county over, or fights with the boys from the same. Okay, just like as an insider, never eat corn dogs or elephant ears or anything at a carnival, because the porta potties are always like right there, and then they just empty the porta potties, and there's just misting stuff going all over where you're gonna buy your corn dog. And we shouldn't eat corn dogs anyway. That's again the vegan place. But the elephant ears. The sun is getting high. The man in the cowboy hat takes 3 of us to a bar called the Tack Room. That's a reference to something that happens at a rodeo. He posts us up at the back exit, tells us no one comes in and no booze goes out. Our roles begin. They try to disguise their contempt for us, and we don't give a shit. The bar is all but empty now. Me and a black guy in his late 20s named Jeff squeeze our way into the disappearing shade at the back gate. I break out the book I'm reading, We Want Everything, a novel chronicling the strikes in Italy at the Fiat factories, strikes that led to the worker-student uprising of '68. Jeff pulls out his cell phone and starts watching a TV show, the volume audible. Soon a woman with the St. Paul Rodeo 2023 laminate on a lanyard around her neck asks if we'll let her in the back door when she returns. She knows the badge means little, but she can't be bothered with coming in front and showing them her ID again. We make no promises. She finishes her drink and she leaves. "Excuse me, you can't come in this way," Jeff says to the tall white man in the cowboy hat who barges through the back door. This is the third time I've let Jeff do the talking because of my complete apathy. I'm obsessive compulsive, so my ill brain allows him to do this job, if only to buy more time watching TV on his phone. "I'm the director!" the man in the cowboy hat snaps when Jeff tries to stop him. Jeff looks at me, shrugs, and goes back to watching TV. You'd think the director wouldn't want us to let some jerk in the back door just because he says he's the director. Jeff shrugs again. It's hotter and the bar is filling up. This goes unnoticed by me, but it gets to the point where I have no business reading. The bald man who owns the security company comes in. He doesn't mention it. Temps, right? Nobody wants to work anymore. Jeff tells him about the director. The bald man says, "Yeah, they're a bunch of snobs," and sends Jeff on his break. Jeff comes back with his break with a factory crumpled black cowboy hat and a pair of sunglasses. I don't recognize him. "Oh, I'm sorry, but you have to come through the front." "Oh, sorry, dude. You look like some kind of a spy. Where'd you get all that?" "Oh, there's a booth out there giving out the sunglasses. I got the hat at another one for $25, Jeff says. So the boss moves us the boss sticks us with Greg, a big, middle-aged black guy in his 50s with a straw hat to keep out the sun. He notices how little Jeff seems to be around. He laughs, says, "Where'd that guy go?" "He went to charge his phone." "Uh-huh," Greg laughs. Did he have that cowboy hat when he got here?" "No, he keeps going shopping." Greg laughs some more. I think we both got a lot to learn from him. The bald man who runs the security company comes back and takes me and Greg to another bar called The Outpost. "You can't read your book here," he says, and leads us to some other temps who are scanning IDs and leaning on long tables, the kind you'll see wrestlers throwing each other on. We can lean on the tables, but we can't sit on them because it looks unprofessional. He has me putting wristbands on cowboys and cowgirls before they enter the bar. We have to tell them to leave the other way.
is rad. Unaware of what's above ground, grape hyacinths stand up. Oblivious to our violence and hate speech, they rise. Our bombs drop every second. Spring rain pulls the tears out of me. I walk by the bulbs in their glory and don't care if the neighbors see me cry. Every day feels like the 4th of July come early or haunting me again. I want to put on headphones, take a Xanax, but I know the side effects will ruin my morning, so I keep listening, but like a dog trying to claw into a cement floor, I want to burrow away from my genetic memory, away from how connected I feel to those who lose everything. And I tell myself I'm privileged. If I am privileged enough to merely witness this, then I won't let myself numb this, at least not all of it, at least not all the time, at least not now. It's the least I can do to just feel it. If you can't hear the children crying, just remember when you were 5 and you thought for a moment you lost your mom in the store. Now pretend the store is your home and she's hidden in rubble in what once was where she fed you, and it's not the end of your nightmare, it's not even close. If you can't feel the ground shaking, put your hands on your pulse and wait, just as certain are waves rushing through the earth as each innocent heart stops. Don't call me an empath for feeling. Don't call me an empath for feeling this. Ask yourself why you don't. Why you have to train yourself to be connected. What happened to you or didn't happen to you to make you complacent and unbothered as some of us question our very existence, yet double fist hope in our hands as we fight for a better tomorrow or for a tomorrow at all. I mean, they told us not to watch, but many of us watched anyway. Doe-eyed alone in the night, screens shining pale light on our porous faces. We are the same people who got in trouble in high school for refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We didn't even understand then why it felt so wrong, but our hearts were born allegiant to the truth. We grew up and found our people, right? In long, messy lines, we march, shouting and chanting, letting the tears roll down our faces as our children beat drums and wave flags, begging the powers that be to do what's right, right? I am privileged enough to be faced with the choice to protest on a Sunday or take my kid to a 4-year-old's birthday party at a place called Own Culture. And I know if I don't protest this week, there will be another rally next week, and I can go if I want to, or I can dig that massage gift certificate out of a bag and ask someone to watch my kid for 2 hours. Of course, if I feel evolved or out of survival mode enough to do so, I can get in touch with how I really feel and take a sick day. I might be able to stay in bed or take a long bath and soak in salt water as though half a day could possibly make a dent in healing this broken heart, this infinite dissonance. Space is good. When I say space is a good thing, I mean, I need more. So I can take it up, so you can sit down, so you can shut up, so you can feast your eyes on possibility. And this space I crave is not empty. long sentences till I'm out of breath and you're in debt to me. I know, I'm just trying to make sense. And sometimes I think I'm getting somewhere as my dream turns to a nightmare in which we can't escape the fires. Our teeth all fall out in slow motion and the ocean swallows us. But first, we have a hard time breathing. Violence fills the streets, but we keep on working, pretending we have goals beyond getting through the day without losing our shit and screaming. Why aren't we all throwing fits right now? Or wait, is this that? Is that what this is? Instead, we're filming makeup tutorials, or someone is, an everyday hack seeking instant gratification as though we're living our best life. Given it 100, we're left on empty. No time to take to the streets. Gotta get your nails filled. No rest for the wicked. Give it 100. Don't have time to take care of my elders. Don't forget to eat. Schedule in some self-care. Gotta get my hair did if I can spare 300 this weekend. Gonna look good. Given it 100. Left on empty. Don't know if I believe in heaven, but hell is real. Christians cast the spell of it and made it so the smell of dryer sheets wafts through broken windows, and I'm supposed to breathe in anxiety and exhale gratitude and drink 8 glasses of water a day, though I swear it all tastes like plastic, everything. Our technical difficulties are kind of cool.
Yeah.
We're rolling with it. Washing dishes, take the collars off the dogs and run up the bills like we used to. However, it's only the end for some of us, and for others it's time to keep witnessing the gruesome reveal again and again. Wolves in sheepskin by the herd, your blue wave has turned red and you might not have heard the word is blood on your hands and everywhere. Blood is everywhere. Let me put it this way. Dishes can wait. Dogs will be loyal. But wolves don't let themselves out. You may think the horrors will go away if you just keep pushing through, but they won't. Still, we have landmarks. Do you remember? Do you remember stray dogs? We used to have them. Cat calls, chat rooms, reruns. Did you think it would get easier if you never heard them again? Do you take pleasure now in a quality selfie because it hasn't lost the charm of the Polaroid, the magic of the drive-in theater, the spell?
The beginning of the recollection of the priestess Hathor, servant of the goddess Hathor. Once it came to pass while I was keeping vigil within her temple, in the beginning of the month of her name, while the fertile inundation of the Nile rose towards the temple, that Hathor, our bovine goddess of the purity and strength of love and motherhood, mother of Horus, daughter of Ra, mother of the pharaohs, lady of the sycamore, mistress of the sky and turquoise, that she wept. Salty tears and saliva dripped down her cheeks and lips. She shifted her feet, bent over, and planted her hands on the ground. They transformed into hooves. Linen fell from her back to the floor. She stamped on the cloth like one threshing grain. Hathor's golden image transmuted into a breathing cow. The carvings of her on the temple walls wailed and lamented the whole of the night. In the dark holiest center of the temple where she had once stood resplendent yet hidden, I cupped her chin in my palm. Tears collected around her eyes. She cried a soft and desperate low through her open mouth. Frustrated breaths warmed my hand. I kept vigil over her through the night, gently stroking the mother of mothers like my babe, as she had comforted and nuzzled so many. She occasionally stirred and cried out in her sleep. In the morning, Hathor awoke in her temple. She stood with groans and began to amble. She turned her head to the left and saw a pile of severed cow forelegs and heads on an offering table amongst cakes and flowers. She laid her head upon the offering table and wept. filling its indentations with her tears. She snorted and gritted her damp eyes as she reared away from these. The smells of charred flesh and incense lingered in the air from the burnt offerings. We exited the temple. Her hooves pounded a dirge upon the stone floors. Though it was morning, the day was still as night. None could see their own nor our shadows, for they saw darkness by day. The priestesses, priests, and others were afraid and surprised to see the one who shines as gold. They were used to yoked cows goaded and whipped by their custodians. And they had seen Hathor's statue floated up the Nile to visit Horus at Edfu, but they had never seen something like this. We continued outside the temple to its cow pens. Here were cows held by the temple and its elites. These were rented out for the temple's profit to be worked on lands owned and taxed by the temple itself. Some from this herd were hobbled and sacrificed, offered to the goddess herself as well as to other deities, including the pharaoh. They mooed when they heard us, eager for breakfast. Hathor kicked down the fences and stood among her brethren. She moved back to them, and they gathered around. She licked their faces, and they licked hers. All rubbed their great heads together. Now Hathor raised her eyes, and in a moment there issued a ray from within the circle above her head. This ray sent forth light in the darkness which surrounded her. It extended over all the regions of Upper and Lower Egypt, so that every field and desert appeared wholly illuminated by its radiance. We saw the various animals and birds and fish and plants in those states become visible, and we saw whether they were in a happy, unhappy, low, eminent, or intermediate position. We saw in many fields the servants of Hathor and other gods whipping cows and sheep. The working humans themselves were whipped as they plowed and carried heavy loads. We saw in many marshes fowlers grasping birds by their necks. We saw chariot horses impaled by spears and arrows in battle, riding alongside and piled upon the mass of human and non-human bodies. These spears and arrows were hafted with animal skin.